Hello there. I'm Jack, and I welcome you to Phantom Chamber, a safe space of dread and distress. Feel free to stick around. A shadow people is a paranormal phenomenon, and the sightings people have of them are often terrifying. Shadow people are humanoid figures that witnesses describe as looking blacker than black or totally devoid of light. Unlike a real shadow people look solid. While some appear to be bulky and muscular, others have been described as being incredibly thin. The creepiest sightings are those of inky black paper, thin figures that bend around objects as they navigate their way through rooms. In all cases, they are solid black, and they are often accompanied by a feeling of negativity or even evil. The following story comes from a woman who shares her own account of shadow person she saw during her childhood. Like most people, I don't remember many details about my early years. I don't remember how I learned to tie my shoes, or when I first learned that blue and red paint mixed together makes purple. I don't remember a lot of things about my childhood, but there is one thing I vividly remember. The night of my 7th birthday. What's more, I've thought about it every night for the past 31 years. All the kids in my class had come over for my birthday party that day, and by bedtime, I was really wiped out. Sleep came quickly, and I slept soundly until around 2, and when I awoke suddenly. At first, I thought that a bad dream might have woken me up, but that wasn't it. Something just wasn't right. It felt like someone was in the room with me, and that they were standing there in the dark, just staring at me. My room was dim, but it wasn't totally dark. I looked to see if my mom or dad had come in for some reason, but the only things I could see were the shadows of discarded clothes on the floor and the pile of presents that sat on my chair. The room was deadly quiet, but the feeling that something was watching me grew by the second, and mixed with it was another feeling. Whatever was watching me was bad. Very, very bad. My eyes scanned the room. The farthest corners were lost in murky shadows, but the area near my window was fairly light. Next to the window was my dresser, and next to it stood something tall and dark that at first puzzled me, then terrified me. It was a deep black shadow, blacker than the blackest black, and it was in the shape of a man. This shadow man stood in front of my dresser, and even though I couldn't see his eyes, I could feel him continuing to stare at me. I'm telling you, this wasn't just a child's imagination. This was real. My dresser had a mirror attached to it, and the shadow figure blocked both the dresser and the mirror. It was very human looking. It stood about 6 feet tall, and apart from the fact that it was completely black, there was nothing unusual about its appearance. It had a normal-sized head, arms and legs. The thing moved its arms ever so slightly, as if it was becoming impatient from trying to stand still. That's when I noticed its hands, and the thing it was holding, a shadow knife about the size of a large kitchen knife. He was holding the knife in his right hand and holding it down on his right side so that it was close to his thigh, and the tip was pointed down toward the floor. The hand that held the knife moved up and down, ever so slightly. This pitch-black figure continued to stare at me, and it seemed as if it was trying to gauge the best time to spring at me. That was one thing I wasn't going to let it do, so I called out as loud as I could to my mother. "Mom, Mom, come in here, quick," I shouted. The hall light came on, and my mother rushed into the room to see what was the matter. When she came into my room, I became even more frightened because she didn't see this figure standing there. She walked right past it as if it wasn't there at all, The dark figure never moved, even when she walked right in front of it, which I found terribly scary at the time. Now that I'm older, it makes me wonder why this thing stayed so still. Seeing how frightened I was, my mom stayed in the room with me, and all the while, she was with me. I could see this black figure standing there. I never told her what I was seeing because I was so scared I couldn't even get words out of my mouth. And I thought that if I did tell her, it might attack us. Despite how young I was, I could tell that it was very negative, although I didn't understand it at the time. The way that it made me feel only caused me to be more afraid of it. As best I can remember, it took about an hour and a half for the shadow figure to leave. It either faded out into the air, or it ran out of the room. I can't recall which. Years later, I came across an article that talked about the paranormal phenomenon known as shadow people. I was amazed to read that many people have seen these things, and that they described them as looking exactly the way the man in my room looked. I didn't read about anyone seeing these creatures holding knives, but they've seen them moving around rooms, and they sometimes leave by walking right into walls. I know now that what I saw the night of my 7th birthday was a shadow person, and to this day, it's something I wish I could forget. The shadow person the little girl saw that night was clearly trying to intimidate her. The knife it held was most likely something it manifested in order to appear menacing. But why would it do this? Why try to scare a little girl? What threat could she possibly pose to this incorporeal being? This shadow person might have been there as an observer, a type of alien or interdimensional being sent to gather information for some unknown purpose. It had probably been in the girl's house for an extended period of time, and its mission was to simply watch the family going about their normal routines. When it was spotted by the little girl, it borrowed a symbol from her mind that it knew she would be terrified. In this case, knife. It knew that she would be too frightened to tell her mother about it that night. It also knew that no one would believe her if she told them about a dark shadow man holding a knife, so it would be free to continue watching the family for as long as it needed to. There are many theories about what shadow people may be. These include aliens, ghosts, interdimensional beings, sprites, and demons, to name just a few. Whatever they are, have no fear. Shadow people are harmless. They can intimidate by sending out feelings of fear and evil, but they can't do any physical harm. They have no physical body, and most of the times they'll literally run away when spotted. Unless they're stuck in our memory.